Tonight, we have on the program the Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. He joins us from Atlanta in the United States. He's been away in a multilateral engagement, but had to make out time to speak to us on this very important matter. Thank you so much, Honorable Attorney General of the Federation, Minister of Justice. Thank you indeed for your time tonight. And let me begin by asking you, I know that your office has come out to deny the knowledge of such operation for this that's been raised by the suspect. Do you have any kind of knowledge of the man and the major suspect in the Justice Odili's home siege, talking about Lawrence Ajodo?
Well, in terms of knowledge, by way of either a relationship, distant or close, I do not have any relationship whatsoever with Lawrence Ajodo. I do not know him. I do not engage him. I do not instruct him formally or informally. So that is the true position of things as far as Lawrence Ajodo is concerned.
Does the Office of the Attorney General use the help of consultants for some of his activities, some that are related to this kind of incident?
Well, the Office of the Attorney General engage people officially, particularly lawyers that are in one way or the other engaged for the purpose of consummation of officials, either in their capacity as legal practitioners or any specialized arrangement. So the issue arising from this understanding is where is the evidence of formal engagement? If Lawrence Ajodo is in any way engaged by the Office of the Attorney General, where is the formal evidence of such engagement? I think that is the fundamental question. The Office of the Attorney General, as you rightly know, is an official office. And with that in mind, there is just no way any other person can be engaged informally for the purpose of provision of services. That is my take on it. The Office of the Attorney General has not engaged Lawrence Ajodo formally or informally, and as a formal office that is put in place for the service of the federal government, Federal Republic of Nigeria, whatever engagement needs to be made by tradition, convention, and practice must be done formally. So I think the starting point is for Lawrence Ajodo or any other person that feels strongly about that to now present for the consideration of the general Nigerian public a formal engagement letter. And that can only be the source of engagement or perhaps a formal relationship, if any, has existed.
Are you aware, AGF, whether or not this Mr. Lawrence Ajodo has ever consulted for the AGF office?
It's on account of the fact that I'm not aware, and perhaps the possibility of undertone criminality might be there, that I now formally requested the Office of the Inspector General of Police, which is the institution saddled with the responsibility of such investigation, is eventually requested to look into the matter, investigate it, and perhaps look at it from the point of criminality and come up with a report. So what I'm saying in essence is I am not aware of such engagement, and arising from the fact that it has generated a lot of controversy, I felt it is only important, necessary, and conclusive that we should take steps by way of engaging an institution that is saddled with the formal responsibility of investigation of the Inspector General of Police. And I am happy to report that the Office of the Inspector General of Police had indeed conducted such investigation and came off with a report.
So you cannot tell us whether or not Mr. Ajodo has at some point been on the payroll or worked, whether when you were in office or when before you came into office for the office of the AGF. Can you tell us whether he has a history with the office of the AGF?
Government business is a formal business. And then being a formal business, if there is indeed any engagement that calls for either a payment for services or associated things, it must be naturally formalized. What I'm telling you in effect that nothing like Lawrence Ojodo exists in the system of the Office of the Attorney General, or to my knowledge, any governmental institution for that matter.
Is there any department, unit, or arm of your office that takes care of issues relating to recovery?
There is Asset Recovery and Management Unit in the Office of the Attorney General, and those are the seasoned civil servants exclusively working for the government that are in that office exercising the statutory functions of the Federal Ministry of Justice.
So do they carry out their activities by going to court to obtain a court order to investigate or to go into people's homes to make a search? Is there a standard mode of practice or mode of operation for such a unit?
Well, you see, government business is regulated. It's regulated through due processes and procedures for that matter. So you cannot be seen to be operating as a unit as a department unit in the Office of the Attorney General, and then you be operating outside the scope of the processes and procedures and regulations of the law. So you can see clearly, the man said he was asked by the Attorney General to carry out that task. Ask him which Attorney General, at what point, on account of which formal engagement. Those are the questions, I think, that are necessary in respect of which clarifications are required. You ask him, which of the Attorneys General, there are 36 Attorneys General across the nation, inclusive of the office of the Attorney General of the Federation. So if he said he has been asked by the Attorney General, the starting point is to ask him, who is the Attorney General? And then by what means? Office of the Attorney General make engagements generally as a formal public office through formal engagement, which is committed and consummated in writing. So the question is, if he is indeed instructed, or perhaps he has been asked by the Attorney General to engage in the exercise, which Attorney General? If it is the Attorney General of the Federation, at what point was he engaged? Is it formal or informal? If it is informal, who are present at the point of engagement? I think those are the key issues, and not perhaps maybe to simply run to a conclusion without allowing for the comprehensive investigation of the undertones.
All right. Minister, let me allow you to listen to Lawrence Ojodo himself, what he said to the police on the day he was paraded. And I'd like to get your reaction. And take a listen to Lawrence Ojodo.
Give me 29 accounts to recover. They did not give to any Shamba. I'm the one they give. Malami give to me. But this assignment I went, Malami did not send me. So that's it. I'm a consultant. I'm a recovery.
When he told me that, there's a lead of a scoop of an asset recovery and funds that they claim to be in a house that nobody is residing, that it involves millions of dollars. I said, but what he saw is that Nigeria is borrowing money and there's a large amount of money stashed in some people's houses. That was when he now told me about Lawrence Ojodo.
Honorable Minister, you heard Mr. Ojodo himself say that he didn't mention the AGF. He said, Malami, he mentioned your surname, that you gave him 29 cases before now, and that although you were not the one that sent him, he was vehement about his relationship with your office and yourself, and how he gets brief from you directly.
Well, I think Ojodo has spoken clearly, expressly, and without mincing words as far as this issue in contention is concerned. And he said, this assignment I conducted, Malami did not ask me. So the starting point is now to clarify the issue, which is at stake, the issue of invasion of the premises of Justice Odili, in respect of which Ojodo now clearly and expressly stated that Malami did not ask him to embark on the exercise. And then the second major issue of interest is the report of the Inspector General of Police, who has expressly investigated this issue and came up with the report that Lawrence Ojodo is not in any way engaged by the Office of the Attorney General or Malami. So I think the answers are clear. Ajodo, by his own showing, by his own admission, expressly stated that Malami did not ask him to invade the premises of Justice Odili. In respect of the other consideration, the report of the Inspector General of Police is clear that this is a clear case of criminal enterprise in respect of which these people have carried out and exercised without the sanction of any ministry, department, or agency of the government. And the report of the Inspector General of Police further came up with a conclusion that indeed a fake police officer, a man that can forge documents, can certainly by extension tell many lies. So the true position of things is that this is a man that claimed to be a police officer and established by the investigation report of the Inspector General of Police that he was indeed not a police officer. So this is a man that has forged a document, indeed an identity card, and forged the signature of the Attorney General of the Federation. So I think it is clear and manifestly clear that this is someone that can concoct any lies on earth. He is not a man of integrity. He is not a man of credibility. He is a man that can visibly be compromised to say anything and that he can do anything against the background of his antecedents that has criminal undertones, which criminal undertones are not only established, but criminal undertones are by his own admission, by his own showing, by his own admission is established.
So you can clarify to us, because he said you gave him 29 cases. Are you saying you have never met this man before?
I have never given him a single case. And if I have given him 39 cases, let him show the evidence of engagement. I have never seen this man on earth, God knows. And I believe there are certain, not only criminal undertones, perhaps maybe some other undertones by people that feel by hook or by crook, the Attorney General must be a target of aggression one way or the other. But the true position of things has been established by his own admission, by the admission of Lawrence Ajodo, and by the conclusive investigation report that has been now handed down by the Office of the Inspector General of Police.
The NBA, for example, had suggested that the president should set up an independent investigation into this matter. Because according to the NBA president, if the office of the Inspector General is involved, it does look like it is investigating itself. Would you suggest so? Do you agree of the position of the NBA?
Well, if the NBA feels in any way that it feels strongly that it does not have the confidence in the report that has been handed down by the Office of the Inspector General of Police, I think they know the better way, the better approach to embark. And I expect them perhaps to challenge the veracity, the authenticity, the cogency of the report in court. I think the NBA is perhaps maybe having an agenda. I'm talking of the national president of the NBA. Perhaps maybe he may have his own agenda that he is pursuing, either perhaps maybe arising from certain conspiracies or not. But then, if he feels strongly, I think, about the report, which has been formally released by the Office of the Inspector General of Police, he knows how best it can be set aside, both in terms of authenticity, in terms of cogency, and in terms of veracity.
Honorable Minister, how is it possible that such a siege will be laid in Nigeria on a home of a highly placed government official, not just an ordinary government official, a justice of the Supreme Court for that matter?
I think in terms of criminality, there is no element of criminality that we are not witnessing in the Nigerian context of today. If you have Boko Haram, if you have bandits, if you have secessionists and separationists, all operating within the context of criminality, I think there are no bounds as to what criminality can be existing in the system.
So what do you think could have gone wrong?
Criminality, and then as has been the tradition, the government is doing whatever it takes in addressing criminalities. But then internationally and locally, there is no way you can outrule the possibility of criminality because criminals are all over the place. And what the law is doing is to ensure that our laws are enforced against against criminals wherever they are found.
If you look at it, Minister, it does appear that these guys are a group of well-entrenched syndicate within the Nigerian system. What does your gut tells you about the activities and the implications on this government's perception?
Organized crime is being fought internationally and locally. So what it goes to establish is the existence of criminal syndicates that are embarking on organized crime. So that, I think, is what conclusion I can drive arising from what is unfolding. But then, certainly, the fundamental thing is investigation has been carried out, and arising from the investigation, a conclusion has been drawn that it is indeed a syndicate operating, as you rightly call them, a syndicate operating an organized crime, which is prevalent not only in Nigerian context, but internationally, is prevalent internationally.
You said in a statement that you will unravel those behind dragging your personality, name, and office in the dirty politics of disrepute. Any luck or clue to that? Have you been able to identify anyone who
we are working effectively. We are working aggressively and effectively on that, and the appropriate time we will make the necessary revelations.
As the chief law officer of the land, have you been able to come around the order from the bench of the court of Chief Magistrate Emmanuel Iyana, who was said to have approved the search warrant by a body identified as the Joint Panel Recovery Unit in the Ministry of Justice on that day, leading to the invasion of Justice Odili's home?
Well, I think that is the function of the judiciary, considering that the magistrate is a judicial officer, and I expect the judiciary to do the needful in terms of getting to the root of the order, with particular regard to whether it was indeed legally, justifiably, and procedurally procured and obtained.
Okay, so lawyers and other commentators in this matter are quick to make reference to the raid on Justice Onongen and other judges in 2016. They tried to make a nexus, a link to the Justice Mary Odili's house incident and that of 2016 with an argument that it is a certain pattern under this government. How do you respond to that?
No comment over that, Sheung. I wouldn't like to comment one way or the other. What is at stake, I think, is the issue of invasion of the House of Justice Odili. And I tell you clearly and categorically that neither the government nor the person of the Attorney General of the Federation, nor Malami in his personal capacity is involved.
So for the perception that has been created about this government, about its stance on judiciary and rule of law, some kind of perception, criticism that it has desecrated the dignity of the bench, how do you defend the perception or the criticism against the government which you work for?
Well, as far as the government of President Muhammadu Buhari is concerned, is doing whatever it takes in terms of establishing the integrity of the judiciary and in terms of ensuring the autonomy of the judiciary with particular regard to the necessary amendment effected to the Constitution as it relates to Section 123, 121 of Section 3 of the Constitution with regards to the autonomy of the judiciary, among others. So a government that has indeed working hard in terms of enhancing the welfare of the judiciary cannot in any way be adjudged as undermining the efficient running of the judicial system, much less of perhaps an attack on the judiciary and its integrity as a system.
So let me perhaps take you away quickly from this issue of Justice Odili's house. We'll be hoping that things will be resolved as quickly as possible and get to the root of the matter. Is the federal government considering or going to entertain an out-of-court or political settlement in the IPOB and Nnamdi Kanu case?
Well, showing the true position of things as far as governance and administration is concerned is you cannot outrule any possibility. But then the true position of things is if there is any element of criminality over issues, it has to be viewed from the perspectives of criminality. But then as far as governance and administration is concerned, as I rightly stated, you cannot rule out possibility. So I cannot rule out any possibility as far as the consideration of these specific issues are concerned.
I would like to ask you a similar question on the value-added tax matter. Any possible move for a political solution on the VAT legal tussle between the FRS and some of the state governments? Are you looking at an out-of-court settlement?
Well, such consideration is not rightly on table, but as I rightly stated, you cannot rule out any possibility. But as far as we are concerned, in the Office of the Attorney General, there exists a judicial proceedings going on, and within the context of that proceedings, we'll address it squarely. But then, if there is need for any further engagement in line and in line and in tune with the tradition of engagement, both judicial and otherwise, such possibilities cannot be ruled out.
Before we take a breather, there is a story about the recovered loot and the allegations that your office ordered that NMPC recover the loot at the rate of 305 naira per dollar. Did you give that order?
Well, I think, Shehun, you have to look at that from the perspectives of historical antecedents, if only you have to do justice to what truly happened as far as that matter is concerned. As you rightly could recall, there was a directive by the president as it relates to the operations of the single treasury account that all funds of the federal government must be certainly channeled through the single treasury account. And then a cut-off time was expressly stated for compliance after this government came in place in 2015. So the position of things was, even after the time limit fixed for compliance was in place, there were certain accounts that were identified in the system in respect of which no compliance had been effected. And that is how the Office of the Attorney General came. A whistleblower now brought attention of the Office of the Attorney General, to such kind of accounts. And then the Office of the Attorney General took steps to recover such monies. And it was in the course of such recovery, when the recovery process was consummated and the liability established against Keystone, the Keystone raised it as an issue that they would like to pay in dollar over a longer period of time, maybe around 4 or 5 years. And then that is how eventually the government took a position that no, this money must be paid immediately. And then an understanding is agreed that it should be remitted into the single treasury account there and then. And then the Naira component payment of it was agreed upon as the official rate of the central bank. So it was a case of recovery in respect of which the Office of the Attorney General recovered an amount in a bank, and then such amount was converted into official rate and paid there and then. So I think it's an issue that should be looked at.
At what rate, Honorable Minister, did you tell them to? At what rate? What rate did you tell them?
Issue that needs to be looked from the perspectives of commendation as against condemnation. So the simple matter is it was a recovery of money in 2017, and such money was lodged into the federal government account, and no, the Attorney General or Abubakar Malami in his own personal right has not benefited a kobo therefrom. So is it about condemnation or perhaps commendation against the background of the fact that these are monies that were meant to perhaps maybe to have, it was indeed money that was not transferred into the TSA account, which was identified, recovered, and effectively transferred into the account. No kobo was missing. So what is the point, perhaps, of default or perhaps fault? What are the fault lines arising from this? I cannot understand. The monies were recovered, 100% deposited into the single treasury account, and then no kobo was indeed lost. And that was a 2017 affair. Why is it being now raised in 2021? 4-5 years after such recovery. And I think those are the elements that one can conclusively perhaps look into to bring about some level of political undertones associated with what is unfolding day in, day out against the person of Abubakar Malami, against the office of the Attorney General. Taking into consideration, it is a 2017 affair when Naira was officially being exchanged at 307, and not a 2021 affair when Naira is being exchanged in parallel market at over 500 Naira.
Let's take a breather. Honorable Minister, I'd like to ask you one or two more questions. We just have a few more minutes with you, but we'll take a break and get your concluding moment when we return from the break. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us on the program. So, the Minister of Justice and the Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Abubakar Malami, who is on an assignment outside of the country on some multilateral engagement, has been speaking with us, and we've gotten his attention to squeeze out some time on some of the burning issues in the land. Let's get our concluding moment with the Honorable Minister. Just to clarify, because the issue, you said that some of the issues are relating to the payments to NNPC or the NNPC or recovered loot and the payment thereof into the Federation account. The issue that has been raised in the House of Reps, have you been able to answer to it? And specifically, I was asking about the rate at which the payment was made. Did you specifically give a rate at which the monies should be paid at the time?
Well, you see, what you need to consider is that this issue is a 2017 issue. What was the official rate of the Naira as far as 2017 is concerned? My answer is the official rate was 305 Naira as at 2017. And that was the amount into which the Naira equivalent was paid into the central bank account, period. Whether there exists any underhand dealings arising therefrom is for you to adjudge. At the official rate of the central bank as at 2017, when this matter had arisen, was 305, and that was exactly what interbank transaction consummated for the recovery of that money in quotation was effected. The money was paid as at 2017, and it was paid at the official rate of 305, and it was a transaction, interbank transaction between a commercial bank and the central bank. The account of the central bank is, the federal government recovery account is lodged with the central bank. The commercial bank involved is Keystone Bank. The Keystone Bank effected payment in favor of an account of the federal government being maintained with the central bank. An official rate, it was an official transaction between a commercial bank and the central bank, and the official transaction was consummated at the rate of 305 Naira, which was the prevailing official rate as at then.
So we have just about a minute to go now. Are you sure that that monies were paid and it landed in the TSA and it didn't go into any other account? Because those are some of the allegations raised.
I don't maintain an account for Shewun, so I couldn't have instructed such money to have been effected into the Shewun's account. I am sure the amount was paid into the federal government account maintained with the central bank. Thank you, Shewun.
On a final note, AGF, do you fear that the debate over the mode of primary in your party, APC, might impact on the assent of the president on the Electoral Act Amendment Bill?
Well, you see, I cannot preempt the position of the president as far as the amendment to Electoral Act is concerned. But one thing I know for sure is the president, in arriving at whatever decision that relates to the nation, will factor the public interest. the interests of justice, the security interest and consideration of the nation, among others. So it is too early in the day and premature for me to jump to a conclusion as to the way the mind of the president will work as far as an assent to a bill that has not been processed to the presidency is concerned. I am not in a position to say. But one thing I can tell you, whatever decision the president will eventually make arising from the amendment will be a decision that will be based on justice of it, that will be based on the public interest, the security interest, and indeed the economic interest of the nation. All these things, naturally, Mr. President, factor to mind in arriving at a decision as to whether to assent or not to assent to a bill. And I do not see this bill on electoral act, the electoral bill being different in terms of the exercise of the discretion of the president. All the necessary material factors, both economic, security, judicial, legal, and otherwise, will naturally come into play as far as the discretion of the president is concerned.
Honorable Minister of Justice and the Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Abubakar Malami, thank you so much for your time tonight on the program and for clarifying some of these issues to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheon. Very grateful.